Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a breaking and dramatic development coming out of Eastern Europe. Belarus is on the brink of collapse, and this unfolding crisis is sending shockwaves all the way to Moscow. As tensions rise, it's becoming clearer that the internal instability in Belarus could turn into one of the biggest challenges Vladimir Putin has faced since the start of the Ukraine war. What's happening right now is not just another political drama, it's a potential game changer for the entire region. Over the past few weeks, reports from Belarus have revealed growing unrest, not only among the general population but also within the country's powerful security and military structures. Long-time dictator Alexander Lukashenko, who has ruled Belarus with an iron fist since 1994, is facing an unprecedented level of internal dissent. His closest allies are beginning to turn against him, and whispers of a silent rebellion within the army and intelligence services are spreading fast. For years, Lukashenko has balanced his rule through fear, manipulation, and support from Russia. But that balance seems to be collapsing before our eyes. The roots of this crisis go back to 2020, when Belarus erupted in massive protests after a highly disputed election. Lukashenko claimed a landslide victory, but the people knew it was rigged. Millions took to the streets demanding his resignation. The brutal crackdown that followed silenced many, but the anger never disappeared. It simply went underground, simmering quietly, waiting for the right moment to explode again. And now, with the economy failing and Russia's war in Ukraine draining Belarusian resources, that moment may have arrived. The latest intelligence indicates that several key Belarusian military officers are refusing to support Lukashenko's policies of total subservience to Moscow. Since the start of the Ukraine war, Belarus has served as a launch pad for Russian troops, missiles, and logistics. But the Belarusian people never supported this war. Many soldiers are reportedly demoralized, angry that their country is being dragged into a conflict they never wanted. As more videos leak online showing troops defecting or refusing orders, the idea of a split inside the Belarusian army no longer seems impossible. It looks inevitable. Economically, Belarus is collapsing under the weight of sanctions and isolation. Western countries have cut off trade and investment, while Russia, once its financial lifeline, is struggling to maintain its own economy. The Belarusian ruble has plunged, inflation is skyrocketing, and ordinary citizens can barely afford basic necessities. Factories are closing, unemployment is rising, and the black market is booming. The government keeps insisting that everything is under control, but on the streets of Minsk, people know the truth: the system is breaking down. Politically, Lukashenko's dependence on Putin has become his biggest weakness. Ever since the Ukraine war began, he has effectively turned Belarus into a satellite state of Russia. Putin's troops have operated freely on Belarusian soil, and Moscow has pushed hard for a full military alliance that would make Belarus's army an extension of the Russian armed forces. But this pressure has backfired. Many Belarusians, even those who once tolerated Lukashenko, now see him as a puppet of the Kremlin. Anti-Russian sentiment is spreading fast, especially among the younger generation who want independence, democracy, and a future free from Moscow's control. For Putin, the collapse of Belarus would be a strategic nightmare. Belarus is not just a neighboring country. It's a critical buffer zone between Russia and NATO. Losing control there would leave Russia's western flank exposed and shatter the image of strength that Putin has tried so hard to maintain. He has invested billions in keeping Lukashenko in power, sending money, oil, and military support. But now, with his own army bogged down in Ukraine and the Russian economy under immense pressure, Putin's ability to prop up his Belarusian ally is shrinking fast. Recent reports suggest that Moscow has quietly deployed advisors and security personnel to Minsk, not to fight Ukraine, but to protect Lukashenko from his own people. This shows just how desperate the situation has become. There are even unconfirmed rumors that the Kremlin has prepared contingency plans to intervene directly if the Belarusian regime collapses, potentially sending Russian troops to restore order. But that move could trigger an even bigger backlash, possibly igniting a new wave of resistance across Belarus and further weakening Putin's image at home. Meanwhile, opposition groups in exile are watching closely. Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, the exiled opposition leader, has been calling on Western governments to prepare for a post-Lukashenko transition. Her movement, once suppressed, is gaining momentum again as cracks appear in the regime. Online, social media channels run by Belarusian activists are buzzing with messages of defiance, organizing protests, and encouraging soldiers to stand down if ordered to attack civilians. It's a digital revolution unfolding in real time, and Lukashenko's government is struggling to contain it. Internationally, the West is closely monitoring the situation. European leaders have issued cautious statements warning Lukashenko against using violence on his people again. NATO is also on alert, as instability in Belarus could spill over into neighboring Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia. The fear is that if Belarus truly collapses, it could open a new front of chaos right on Europe's doorstep. But at the same time, many in the West see this as an opportunity to weaken Putin's grip on the region without direct confrontation. A free and democratic Belarus would be a massive blow to Moscow's ambitions. Inside Russia, the news from Belarus is causing deep concern. Many in the Russian elite see this as a warning sign, a glimpse of what could happen in Russia itself if Putin loses control. The parallels are striking: an aging autocrat, an angry population, a collapsing economy, and a war that's draining everything. If Lukashenko falls, it might inspire similar resistance inside Russia. The Kremlin knows this, and that's why they're panicking behind the scenes. As of now, the situation in Belarus remains fluid and unpredictable. Lukashenko is reportedly tightening security in major cities, purging his military leadership, and ordering mass arrests of anyone suspected of disloyalty. Yet, despite all his efforts, the sense of inevitability is growing that this regime, after nearly 3 decades of repression, is finally reaching its breaking point. People are no longer afraid like they once were. They're angry, desperate, and ready for change. For Putin, the collapse of Belarus would mean losing his last true ally in Europe. It would isolate Russia further, both politically and strategically. It would also send a powerful message to other authoritarian regimes in the region that absolute control doesn't last forever. Every empire, no matter how strong it seems, eventually crumbles from within. As we watch these events unfold, one thing is certain: the fate of Belarus and the fate of Vladimir Putin are now deeply intertwined. If Belarus goes down, it could drag Moscow into a new crisis that even Putin may not survive politically. The coming weeks will be critical. Will Lukashenko manage to crush dissent once again, or will the people finally rise and bring an end to decades of dictatorship? And if that happens, how far will Putin go to save his ally or himself? This story is far from over. The next moves by both Minsk and Moscow could redefine the balance of power in Eastern Europe for years to come. Stay tuned, because this is history in motion, and what happens in Belarus might just mark the beginning of the end for Putin's long-standing influence over the region.